Hey, PRS fans, it has been an exciting week for PRS guitars. PRS this week announced the release of the new NF3 SE model, bringing a brand new dimension to the S-style guitars that they offer. We're going to go over a little bit about the differences between this and the Silver Sky, one of the most popular guitars that they have ever made. What makes them different, what makes them sound different, and how they sound different. We're going to go over all that now, so stay tuned. So the PRS Silver Sky was released just a few short years ago and took the guitar world by storm. These have been an incredibly popular guitar for both novice and professional players alike, and have really carved its own little niche in the Fender-influenced guitar world. So PRS just introduced the NF3. The NF3 represents a departure in some ways from the PRS Silver Sky, a more PRS feeling instrument. So if you are a PRS fan and you have a personal affinity for the feel of their necks, fingerboard radius, their bridges, this is something that also may appeal to you. So let's talk about some of the things that make them same and what makes them different. Number one, let's talk about what makes them the same. Both the PRS Silver Sky and the NF3 both share a poplar body. Both have a maple neck with, in this case, rosewood fingerboard, but both guitars are available as a maple as well. Both have the tilt-back headstock. Both feature tremolos, although they're a little different. We're going to talk about what those differences are. The other thing is it's a very similar S-style layout for both the controls. The PRS Silver Sky being very, very influenced by the traditional S-style guitar, whereas the NF3 has got a little bit more modern, maybe sensibility and a little more PRS-edness to the setup. So let's talk about what makes them different. And there are several things. Number one, the neck shape. The neck shape on the PRS Silver Sky is much fuller. The fullness extends mostly into the upper fret area. It starts out relatively normal and thin, and then it gets increasingly thick, whereas the NF3 has a much more even taper. If you're used to PRS necks, this is going to feel much more similar for you on the NF3. Both have tilt-back headstocks, but like I mentioned earlier, the tuning machines are a little different. The NF3 has a more traditional SE model tuning machine. These can also be replaced with a locking tuning machine very easily. It's a direct retrofit that PRS makes. The Silver Sky has a more of a vintage, kind of old school, maybe Gibson influenced tuning machine, something that you would see on their McCarty models, with a kind of a gray plastic button on the outside. Also, the Silver Sky is available. They have available locking tuners for this if you would choose to upgrade those down the road. Now, the neck not only differs in back shape, but in also fingerboard radius, which is the contour of the fingerboard. The NF3 has got a flatter 10-inch radius, all right? So it's a little flatter than the Silver Sky, which in this case is about an 8-inch radius. So a little more rounder, a little more vintage Fender feeling. Moving down to the bridge on the NF3 is the traditional PRS Tremolo. It floats just off the body somewhat and allows you to be able to push down and pull up on the bar to be able to get a really smooth trem action. This is the same tremolo that's found in all of the custom 24s, standard 24s, most of anything that is an SE model that carries a tremolo, this same trem. The Silver Sky has more of a maybe Fender-influenced bent steel saddle. The spacing is also slightly different on those strings. Not a good, bad, or it's just different. The Silver Sky is also a decked tremolo, meaning that the trem sits directly on the back of the body. That's part of the spec on how this guitar and trem is designed and set up. That can be changed to your preferences, but that's just how the setup comes. Now, what really sets these two instruments apart is going to be the pickups. And the Silver Sky has the 635 pickups, John Mayer pickups, that are, in this case, an S version of that pickup. The S version of that pickup just means it's an import that would be standard on the SE models. It's glassy, has a very traditional Fender-inspired tone. Think vintage Fender. Now, the NF3 is very different. This has got the Narrowfield Deep Dish S pickups. These are much fatter, much warmer sounding, slightly louder, although they're not the output that you would typically see from a humbucker or that type of thing. So we're going to get some sound demos back and forth between the Silver Sky and the NF3, so that way you can hear those differences, these pickups in each of those positions. Lastly, one of the major differences is going to be the body contours. The Silver Sky carries a very traditional, maybe Fender-inspired body contour system. The heel is maybe a little modified to be much more accessible for a la PRS. Whereas the NF3 has got more traditional bevels that you would see along a lot of their other line. It feels like a much more compact body than the Silver Sky. And if you're looking for more of like that smaller, more compact, augmented S-style guitar, the NF3 may fit you really, really well. So that's it for the what is the same, what is different version of our, or portion of our presentation. Let's now get into the sound samples. We're going to compare each of the positions for both the Silver Sky and the NF3. So stay tuned. All right, so there you have it, folks. The differences between the Silver Sky and the new NF3 by Paul Reed Smith Guitars. The Silver Sky, brighter, has more sparkle, more of that vintage Fender vibe to it. The NF3, warmer, darker, definitely a little louder. So if you like something a little bit gainier, has a little bit more bark to it, or you just are trying to get rid of some of that chime out of your S-style guitar, the NF3 is definitely worth trying out. So check us out at George's Music and georgesmusic.com to check your Silver Sky or NF3 out for yourself. Thanks so much for watching.